Okay, sweet. Is it okay if you pull in there? Nice. We got a ride! Hello and welcome to episode 5 of How to Learn Anything, the show in which I learn 2 unrelated skills from scratch and combine them in interesting and unconventional ways. During the show, we'll break down the process of learning cool stuff through information provided by industry experts, my failure, and hopefully, my eventual success. Because we spent way too much money on a previous episode, we only have $300 to get down to the location of our next episode. For this episode, to get there, I'm going to try to convince people to take us from Edmonton, Alberta to Portland, Oregon in exchange for things that I have learned how to knit. While we go against the warnings of our parents and get into strangers' vehicles, I will be knitting a Canadian flag that we hope to eventually raise on top of Mount Hood. Grab your toques and carpal tunnel cream. This is how to knit a Canadian flag while hitchhiking. What 3 tips would you give to someone who's hitchhiking for the first time?
Well, something that I always like to do is you can ask them in the beginning if you can take a picture of their license plate just for precautionary measures. And if they say no, then you can just say, okay, never mind.
The second tip I would give someone is that the cause for fear are often overstated, and usually psychopaths are not just randomly driving down the road looking to pick people up. And the people who pick you up are probably nice people that want to do you a favor.
And then I'd say the third tip would be location. You can spend a lot of time waiting if you're in a bad spot. Sometimes a little walk up or down the road can get you picked up a lot faster.
And believe it or not, through the 1,500 plus hitchhikes between everyone we interviewed, there were only 11 combined instances where the hitchhikers felt unsafe and 0 times where they were harmed, which made me feel a lot better about the trip. I also learned that hitchhiking is illegal in Canada, so in order to get down to the border, I will instead have to try to convince people I find online to give me rides and then hitchhike the rest of the way there. But before we go anywhere, I gotta learn how to knit. What do you think is the best way for people to start knitting?
I started with dishcloths, which are nice because they're small, and then there's something super useful at the end of it.
To help master the skill of knitting, I recruited Anna. She thought knitting the flag was gonna be tough. We thought this was gonna be the easy skill.
Oh, you might be in for a surprise.
And she was right. Knitting was really tough for me. It took about 2 months of practice before I really started to enjoy the process, feel confident enough to tackle our flag, and make strangers things I could be proud of. In that time, I made a wonky-looking dishcloth, a toque which took 2 attempts, another toque for my brother which also took 2 attempts and still ended up being way too big, and lastly, a mini Canadian flag to learn how to embroider the leaf. At which point, I didn't necessarily feel ready, but had to head out on the trip anyways to get down to Mount Hood in time for the climb. It's 2 days to us heading out to try to get down to Mount Hood, and right now what I'm doing is just trying to see if anyone's willing to take us closer to our destination in exchange for knitted trinkets. Here we go, ad number 1. Okay, we'll see what happens. So it's the morning after we posted the ad, and we've had 0 replies. Would you be cool with letting us tag along and me knitting you something cool along the way?
Let me think about it.
Okay, sounds good. We'll see you tomorrow, and I'll text you with more information soon. We weren't sure if he understood that I wanted to knit him something instead of paying for gas. We should have planned way earlier for this. But at that point, we were pretty desperate to get out of Edmonton, agreed to the ride, and headed out the next morning at 5 a.m. to meet DJ for our first ride of the trip. Knitting supplies. While we were on our way down, I started the flag and had to friggin' restart the thing twice. It's way too big. Restarting again. Good news is we got a ride confirmed to Kelowna on our way down here. So that's great. Bad news is, from Edmonton to Calgary, I haven't gotten anything done. Now we're gonna go meet up with the people who agreed to take us to Kelowna. Thanks for waiting for so long, oh my God! We were a bit late, but thanks to them being great, we were able to make 6 more hours of progress that day in exchange for some coffee and a couple of phallic-looking thumbs I knit them. They requested thumbs, I accidentally made them look phallic. Oh, and we also met Carlin, one of their friends that we just met who let us stay at her place. We were prepared to sleep in a tent in a sketchy park, but this worked too. Getting out of Kelowna was surprisingly tough. It took a couple days of calling, a beer cozy, change in location, tiny booty-toque, and huge favor from my friend Jeff, but we were eventually able to get out of town to Merritt, a smaller town an hour down the road where we met Tim, a solid guy who agreed to take us out to Vancouver in exchange for a knitted phone cozy.
It's wonderful. I love it.
Nice.
We stayed with one of my brother's film friends that night.
Oh wait, we're filming this. Where's makeup?
We're currently in Vancouver. It's fairly early in the morning, and we're just waiting outside the bus station trying to get a ride across the border. We're about to cross the border. You're gonna find out 1 second from now if we got over. We're about to cross the border. We are in Bellingham, Washington, right outside the I-5, trying to get down to Seattle, and this is our first attempt at hitchhiking. Hey.
Hey, I'm going back down to Burlington.
Literally 30 seconds after I put my thumb out, we got a ride. We're going to Birmingham, so I think it's about 45 minutes on our way down there. Yes!
I was just kind of like, what are these guys doing standing in the middle of a snowstorm?
Yeah. I don't think we could have, imagined a more generous person. After Aaron bought us some food and dropped us off, we hitched for another few hours, but with no luck. This meant we had to work out somewhere to stay. We didn't have enough cash for a hotel, nothing was available online, and we were pretty screwed. Until John saw us in a coffee shop and friggin' offered for us to stay at his place that night. We were prepared to stay in a local baseball diamond in a tent, but this worked too. So I made this last night for you. Sweet. The next morning, we went back out to try again. We're there for 30 minutes and ended up getting picked up by Addis. He took us through Seattle, also offered to buy us food, ran out of gas on the highway, and dropped us off in Olympia, the capital of Washington. We hitchhiked there for about 3.5 hours and were eventually picked up by Connie. She wasn't planning to go to Portland that day, but liked what we were doing and decided to take us anyways. 2 hours later, we were in Portland and couldn't find a place to stay. So we used the last of our budget to book a super cheap place online and give Connie some gas money. She didn't ask for it, we just felt like it was the right thing to do. Which meant at this point, we were depending on the kindness of strangers for food, getting to Mount Hood, and being able to finish the flag before the climb. How much closer do you think you could bring us?
How about if I take you 20 minutes more up the road?
Perfect.
So. I wish I could have gotten you guys further up the mountain.
No problem. All right. So she's taking us to Mount Hood, and just offered to get us food. I don't know if we're gonna take it, but this is incredible. People are so good. People are so good. Ah! It's done. Oh man. I feel really emotional, legitimately emotional right now. And a dishcloth, 2 toques, a mini Canadian flag, 2 phallic-looking thumbs, a beer cozy, booty toque, phone cozy, glasses case, 1,898 kilometers, $300, 72 hours of knitting, and 9 rides later, we made it. As far as takeaways go for this episode, the first one is that knitting is a great way to unwind at the end of the day. The second one is that if you're hitchhiking, stand next to a stoplight where people can easily turn off if they see you. And the last one is, when given the opportunity, people are so friggin' good.